Thank you for being here today. We are very excited to welcome several of her expert providers to today's conversation. You can learn more about each of the experts featured in this episode, as well as many other of our trusted professionals through our free provider directory, and we will link that down into the show notes. This episode is part of our expert roundtable series, where we gather our professionals together from a range of fields to talk about the topics that matter most to moms. We host 4 of these discussions each year, and this is the third of our 2025 series. Our roundtables are a cornerstone of Her Health Collective. They bring together our diverse perspectives, they foster collaboration across disciplines, and they help us support moms with more connected, well-rounded care, while also giving our experts the opportunity to learn from each other. Today, we're diving into the theme, creating a legacy of health for your family. So it's important for us to say that legacy isn't just about genetics or heirlooms. It's about the habits, values, and systems that we build in our homes and the way we model health and well-being for our children. These everyday choices, the things that we prioritize and how we navigate the challenges and how we care for ourselves and each other become the foundation of the health legacy we pass on to our future generations. So before we begin, we'll invite each of our experts to introduce themselves and share their area of focus. I'm just going to go across my screen with the person I see first, and that is Dr. Nora. Hi, Dr. Nora. Can you get us started by introducing yourself, please?
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I am Dr. Nora Witten, owner of Functional Physio / Functional Pelvic Health. We are a physical therapy clinic. We treat pelvic floor conditions as well as orthopedics. And I'm super excited to chat a little bit more about taking care of yourself as a mom.
That's great. Thank you so much. It's great to have you here. Sarah.
Hey, everyone. I'm Sarah Parise. I'm the founder of Great Days by Sarah, and my whole mission in life is to get moms to carve out 2% of their day for their physical, mental, and emotional health so we can feel our best and therefore give our best to our loved ones and our families.
It's always great to see you, Sarah. Thanks for being here. Hi, Marianne. Can you pop on, please?
Sure. Hi, I'm Marianne Brenneman. I am the owner of Mindful Health and Harmony. I am a Family Life Coaching Association board certified expert. It's a mouthful. It means I work with tweens, teens, young adults, and parents.
Perfect. You'll have a lot of perspective. Thank you. Hi, Veronica.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Veronica Kemeny, and I'm one of the founders of Anchor Perinatal Wellness, which is based in Raleigh and serving perinatal families across North Carolina with specialized mental health services during pregnancy, postpartum, birth, loss, everything along that spectrum. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Veronica. We're excited to hear your ideas on legacy of health. Anastasia.
Hey, I'm Anastasia. I am a therapist and coach, and I work with families and moms just to help them create that life that's calm and less chaotic.
That's fantastic. We're excited to hear what you have to say. Hi, Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna Lutz. I'm a registered dietitian, a co-owner of Lutz and Alexander Nutrition Therapy. We specialize in eating disorders and pediatric nutrition. I also create Sunny Side Up Nutrition, which is a free resource to parents with recipes and non-diet parenting feeding advice. And I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Anna. You'll have a great perspective. Thanks so much. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Bazinet. I'm an occupational therapist and owner of Be Well Baby, a infant specialty practice helping babies with infant feeding, movement and milestones, and torticollis treatment here in Raleigh.
We're happy to have you. Thanks, Nicole. And Irene.
Hey there, I'm Irene Googe, and I work as a sleep coach and postpartum doula with Loving Lesson Sleep Solutions, where I help parents get more sleep with the right strategies. I provide sleep coaching success programs for families with newborns to preschool age to really pinpoint those challenges and get to the root cause and help them become calm, confident, and rested in their parenting journey.
Thanks, Irene. This is fantastic. We have a really great group of people here today. So thanks so much for your time.
So a legacy of health isn't only physical, it's also about raising emotionally strong, confident kids, which what parent doesn't want that? Daily routines, rituals, and parenting styles shape how children develop independence, confidence, and resilience. And these patterns become the foundation that they carry into adulthood. I'm going to turn this to Irene first. You've talked about shifting parenting styles in order to encourage independence and emotional regulation. What are some practical ways that parents can make that shift in daily life?
Sure. So, first, I want to just take a moment to define what parenting styles are so people even know what we're talking about. And so, in general, there's this idea and research that was done where there's permissive parenting that has the idea of like, hey, let's be friends, and we're a little more passive. Or there's neglectful or uninvolved parenting where you're on your own, you have to figure things out. Or authoritarian, where it's because I said so, this is how we do it. And authoritative, which comes from this, let's talk about it, and problem solving. And there's a good chance, and I have a hunch, that a majority of people who are probably listening to this podcast tend to fall into that quadrant of let's talk about, let's problem solve. But one of the things when I think about our parenting styles is I'm thinking about what skills do I need to build as a parent to model for my kiddos as I'm showing up. And you asked about like, what is a practical way I can do this? And one of the things I share with families for sleep coaching is a lot of families want their little ones to sleep in their own crib, but they actually never had a chance to maybe practice it. And so when can they do that? And so I encourage families to think about yes spaces during play windows, because sometimes our children never have a chance or an opportunity to just practice being able to be okay and alone during the day. And so when we think about the communication and how we're connecting with them and what we're even modeling for them and letting them know like, hey, you're going to be okay playing in your pack and play, or maybe a space that is closed off, that is safe for your little one, and allowing them to be okay with that separation, those short separations where we might need to go take care of ourselves, go to the bathroom, maybe run a load of laundry. Like we've been talking about our health and wellness. Maybe I need to work out. You're going to be here. I'm going to be right here. We're doing this together. And so I think that when we think about our parenting styles, depending on what we learned, like Anastasia was talking about from our parents, we're going to show up and do some of those things in what we're doing. So if we can kind of explore those parenting styles and understand why am I doing what I'm doing, it's going to help us just show up and model things differently for our little ones.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much, Irene. I'm going to turn it over to Marianne now, because you talk a lot about a strength-based parenting approach, which I love. It focuses on teaching boundaries, balance, and life skills, similar to what we were just talking about. How do these tools help children grow confident through competence?
Right, thank you. And Irene, thank you for talking about the 4 different kinds of parenting styles, because I think that's really important. And an authoritative, and it's so confusing because authoritarian and authoritative sound so similar, but authoritative parenting is that warmth with boundaries, warmth with understanding. Let's talk about it, as you were saying. So in my approach to working with families, I do focus on boundaries, balance, and life skills. And, with boundaries, that gives kids the parameters in which to feel safe, right? Like the kids know what the limits are. They know they can explore. They know they can take risks. They know they can make choices within a secure framework. You're not just saying, yeah, go do whatever. They know where the limit is. And I think that's really important. And kids, particularly the teenagers that I work with, they really want those limits. They'll act like they don't want them, but they do. They really do want them. The thing to remember with boundaries is that it's not about control. It's about keeping them safe while allowing them to grow and learn independence. Boundaries, in another way, also improves the relationship. There's no ambiguity about what's going to happen, right? Like if you've set a boundary and you've been consistent with it, the kids know what's going to happen. So it's important to have boundaries. We also talk about boundaries, like teaching kids boundaries outside of the home, like, what's okay for them, what's not okay for them, how do they verbalize that? That's a whole other conversation. But I think boundaries within parenting involves making rules and being consistent with your reactions. Balance, which I love, we've already said it about, modeling balance for your kids. I mean, we talk about balancing reasonable screen time limits and device use and that type of rule stuff, but by showing kids that it's okay to take care of yourself, balancing school, balancing rest, balancing activities and downtime, all that stuff, you're basically showing kids how to prioritize and manage stress and avoid burnout, which, kids experience burnout. It just shows up as anxiety, right? So if you are showing within your family, this is how we take care of ourselves and each other, that's going to be really, really important. And then the life skills are the thing that I will hang my hat on. All day long, I will hang my hat on this. You can start introducing appropriate life skills, age appropriate life skills as early as like age 3. I mean, it can be like pick up your toys, pour the water for dinner, set the table, stuff like that. And these responsibilities grow into more. It grows into, this is what we do for each other and our family. This is how we manage our time. This is how we communicate effectively. This is how we care for our bodies. It's all these different life skills that kids should be able to do. And every skill that they master basically helps grow their sense of self-worth and their sense of capability. So I feel like when you get a child or a whole family that has a sense of boundaries, has a sense of balance, they're all doing age appropriate life skills, they're working together, they learn to trust themselves and each other. And that's the legacy that you're talking about. You will help a family pass these down if you have taught everybody how to do this and move along in a continuum together.
Oh, I love that so much. And there was such a theme throughout that of modeling, which we had talked about previously, that if we're leaving this as a legacy, we have to model so much of it ourselves too.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And I would like to turn it to Veronica now. Veronica, you emphasize modeling emotional regulation and building family traditions. Can you share how these strategies can help families navigate socio-emotional struggles and strengthen bonds?
For sure. Thank you so much, Chrissy. This is Veronica Kemeny, licensed clinical social worker. So I think what's really important to think about when you're thinking about emotion regulation is emotion regulation needs to come from their connection with their parent, which starts as co-regulation. As humans, we, even as adults, we have emotion regulation skills, so some better than others, but we also still co-regulate as adults, right? We seek physical affection, reassurance, we talk to a friend. So that's going to be some of the ways we emotionally regulate, but co-regulation is really important. And so when I think about parenting dynamics where either ourselves as parents were upset and we're getting frustrated, or the kiddo is going through a moment, it's really important to be regulating ourselves. And then also our nervous systems will bounce off each other. So as we regulate, they are more likely to be able to regulate. They are then seeing what you are doing, which is the modeling component we've talked about a lot. But the reality is, we are still learning this as adults. And I think that's an important thing to also continue to tell our children, right? We make mistakes, we get upset, we might raise our voice or act in a way that we're not necessarily proud of. But I think we are the first generation of parents who are truly teaching ourselves as adults how to emotionally regulate while also teaching our children. So that's a really unique dynamic. So some of the things concretely that I like to recommend to folks is, yes, I think it was Anastasia who was saying around stopping and going inward. Learning how your body gets activated as a parent. All of us have different triggers or different sort of circle of security, which is a parenting book, talks about shark music, different things that turn on your nervous system in a really uncomfortable way. Just noticing for yourself of uh-oh, I'm getting to that place where I can tell I'm getting worked up. Bringing in your own tools. Oftentimes when I've taught my own clients in therapy around how to regulate their nervous system through breath work or grounding or mindfulness, they've then come back to me and say, hey, I've been doing this for a few weeks and now my toddler starts taking breaths along with me. So that is not a, hey, toddler, take breaths. That is them seeing mom do this over and over, and they realize this is what we do when we get upset. So that's that modeling piece, which is really beautiful. A couple really concrete things I like to present is grounding, where we feel our feet on the ground, we feel what's around us, bringing it in a developmentally appropriate way. Some of my favorite ways that I had learned about and shared with families is utilizing color as a grounding force. So oftentimes when my kiddo, even I think about in the car, when that's the worst, right? You're driving, you're trying to stay safe, and there's now a screaming child in the back. It's really important to be able to say, hey, let's look around and be really curious. Let's look around, and where's there a blue car? Where's there a red? So curiosity brings a different place in your body and in your nervous system. And that calmer voice, that sort of joyfulness and play is also another way. So utilizing color in the environment, I still utilize that with my 10-year-old and starting to utilize it with my toddler. So that's a concrete way. It's that's a fancy thing called grounding. We do with adults, and I teach adults in therapy. And we can bring it in a really fun, curious, regulated way. And as we are doing it with our kiddos, it's really interesting to feel ourselves slow down, like in parallel.
Thank you so much, Veronica. That is gold. And so much of what you said resonates with me, particularly the me that I was this morning. So thank you.
And I wanted to talk briefly about parenting styles and feeding, because I sometimes, with all the messages we get about food, the way we might parent and the way we feed our children may not align. And so I love that Irene went through with parenting styles. So many parents we work with are worried about picky eaters, or they might be worried that their child is gaining weight too quickly or not gaining weight quickly enough. And a lot of times we're going back to how can we feed in an authoritative way? So a permissive parenting style of feeding might be not having enough structure. So kind of letting a child decide what they're going to eat, maybe always feeding them something completely different than from the family. An authoritarian feeding style might be you have to eat your green beans and your chicken before you get more of this or to eat this. And so again, setting those boundaries that we've been talking about of this is what's for dinner, that will look different for every child and every family so that the child feels regulated and safe at the table. But having those boundaries and feeding in a way that is supporting them in developing their eating skills really helps. And so I really kind of wanted to highlight that when we think about feeding, we think about those feeding styles too.
Anna, thank you so much for saying all of that. One of the things that I'm actually working with Anna's group with my older kids, because I have teenagers, is the lingo to use around giving them those options, because oftentimes they're choosing options that we wouldn't really want them to choose. And so trying to use the right, quote unquote, right, more affirming language for them, positive language for them. So
and I'm glad you brought that up, Cindy, because it'll look different. That authoritative feeding looks different for 2, 3, 4-year-olds than it does for teenagers. Yeah, right? The structure and boundaries and support and scaffolding that we give teenagers around feeding looks really different because we're starting to give them more of that autonomy. So I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Thanks, Anna. We're going to talk a little bit about movement and physical wellness. We touched on this a bit when we were in our section about parental self-care and growth, but we wanted to dig a little bit more into this physical wellness movement space. And I'm going to bring Nicole into the discussion right now. She focuses on early childhood development. So, Nicole, how does movement or lack of movement impact infants and children? And what simple tips can parents use to build movement into their child's day?
Thank you, Cindy. So I work primarily with infants and some toddlers. And as many have mentioned earlier, really focus on the importance of routines in the daily life. So I always say it's not adding more to your day, more like prescribed exercises, but actually just incorporating that movement into the things you're already doing during the day. So often parents with infants are told, oh, do tummy time. And they think it has to be like a certain number of minutes in a certain place in the house. And, it's very focused, but you can incorporate tummy time by the way you carry the baby, holding them out on their tummy while you're walking around the house, because you're going to be holding your baby. You can put the baby on your bed while you're folding laundry, and they can have tummy time or free play time while you're doing the laundry. You can have different spots in your house where you can put baby down so that they are moving their bodies in a safe space, but you're also able to get some of your household chores done as well. Lots of moms love getting out of the house. Sunshine and fresh air is super important for mental health, great for sleep, and just getting fresh air for both mom and baby. So instead of keeping baby in the infant car seat where they are super contained, which is supposed to help them, keep them safe during a car accident, well, it really restricts their movement. So you could use the bassinet option of your stroller. You can put them in a wrap and carry them on your daily walks. So those are ways to increase movement for the baby. And also to note that the sensory system really plays a big part of movement development for babies. And then movement impacts their sensory system. So we look at vestibular sense, which many people haven't heard of, which is your sense of movement in space. So that is for when baby is walking with you in the stroller or you're carrying them, they're feeling that movement. Same with proprioceptive sense. That is your sense of where your body is in space. And so that is super important as babies learn to move and crawl and roll and walk. They will learn where their body is in space. So all of that is impacted by their ability to move. So those two systems really play a part together. So thinking of ways to incorporate movement throughout the day really will help babies with their motor development and their sensory development, which will just keep this constant cycle.
Thanks, Nicole. It was really interesting to hear your perspective on their early childhood development and getting them moving and all of that. So thank you for providing that feedback. I'd like to also tie in as the children start to age, because I have, like, as I said, teenagers. My husband and I are very active. We move our bodies all the time. I was an athlete. My husband was as well. Our children, on the other hand, are not, which is very funny to us, but we have had to try to digest that. And so now I'd like to talk to Dr. Nora a little bit. We talked previously, Sarah had brought up doing family tag. I don't know if my teenagers would do that. So I was wondering if we could hear, perhaps you might have some more practical or low pressure ways that we can help to weave movement into busy family lives. I know you work with moms. I know you have a wide range of clients. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like other people have said with some of the other things of just modeling, is one like great way, but even like parking further away or like taking the stairs, can just be little things too, or like just doing squats while you wait for the microwave. I think sometimes, again, can add in those little things, or, I mean, this wouldn't work for teenagers, but I'll just like pick my kids up and do lunges and they just think that's so much fun, so that can be like an easy way to do it as well. But yeah, I think just trying to like make things fun, and I love the tag idea. Like that's such a good idea. So yeah, I think there's just those easy little things here and there that certainly can add up like over time.
Thanks so much, Nora. Sarah, do you have additional feedback?
I do. I'm working with a
Okay.
client right now who is a similar situation. She was a marathon runner, husband played college football. They have two children who are very artsy and into theater and photography. So one of the things that they've been doing is on the weekends, they turn these photography projects into kind of secret hikes. So they find like these waterfalls that are 3 miles away, and they park their car, and it's like the kids have their cameras. They have very high-end cameras and that are very much into the photography, but she kind of calls it sneaky fitness, that she's like, her and her husband want to hike and her kids want to just take photos, and it's the best of both worlds. So adapting your like family activities and playing into what your kids are into can be a way to get moving. As obviously it's not going for a run or lifting weights, but getting them out in nature, one, huge benefit, and two, walking any distance compared to what they do on their day-to-day at school benefits the whole family.
That's fantastic. I like the idea of sneaky fitness. That made me chuckle. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to lean into what their passions already are. So as we dive into our final topic here, which is habits, values, and family routines, I think that actually lends perfectly into this next bit of our conversation. This idea of what are your kids interested in, and how can you weave that into what you as the adult and the parent are interested in? Because our legacies are often built in those small intentional choices that we make every day, every weekend, with what we do together as a family, whether it's bedtime routines, shared meals, family traditions, sneaky fitness. Those are all things that we can impart and leave with our children. So these consistent habits shape how children view things like health, connection, resilience, long after they're grown and out of the house. So I'm going to turn this over to Marianne first. You work with clients teaching boundaries and instilling family values. How do these small lessons become part of a larger wellness culture that kids carry into adulthood?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really funny when parents contact me, they're all about solving the problem that's happening today. Like they're not thinking about a family culture or a legacy down the line. They're contacting me because they have an issue that needs to be solved in their mind immediately. But what happens is that it really is laying down the building blocks for lifelong wellness. So we had talked a little bit before about the boundaries, and when a family has boundaries and kids learn boundaries, they're actually learning self-respect and learning healthy relationships for the future, right? So as an adult, they're learning to say no when something doesn't align with their values when they're an adult or a college student or whatever. They're learning to recognize when relationships are unhealthy, or they have the confidence rather to protect their time, their energy, and their emotional health because they've learned about boundaries and they understand those. So that's one thing that I think is really a good legacy to leave. Talking about family values, I am big on doing a family mission statement with the families that I work with. And we sit down and we actually figure out, what do we believe as a family? They talk about it, they come up with statements, and it's a long process, but it's really cool. What that does down the line is it means they have an internal compass, right? So if the values that are taught at home are including like kindness and generosity and gratitude and responsibility, those just become the inner compass that a kid uses, and that child will use it to navigate school, to navigate friendships, and eventually careers, right? Because it's internal. So as an adult, they're going to make decisions that are rooted in integrity because they know who they are. They're going to feel anchored in who they are and resist outside pressure when somebody comes to them and wants them to do something that doesn't, again, align with their values. And it also kind of helps them build a sense of belonging and purpose beyond achievement. So a lot of the kids that come to me right now, I call it achievement-based self-worth. They think they're their latest math grade. They think they are the grade they got in English. They think they are the time they got on their cross-country meet. When we talk about family values, they instill their personal values, and they know that achievement is awesome, but that they have a sense of belonging and purpose beyond that achievement. So that's that. And then talking about balance and life skills, those things will teach kids when they become adults how to balance relationships and work and self-care, and just how to feel confident in daily living. Because competence, as we've talked about, breeds confidence. It's that I know I can take care of this, I have the skills to handle it. So looking down the line, every time they enforce a boundary and they understand why, every time a value is reinforced, every time a skill is practiced, these things stack on top of each other. And that's creating the culture. It's not, as we said, just a special occasion of wellness, like, oh, I get my nails done or I get a massage. It's this whole wellness is normal. And this is what we expect. And they will pass that down eventually to their kids. We hear about generational trauma a lot, and I would like to turn that and have it be generational wellness. And I think that absolutely can happen. Healthy families will eventually raise healthy children.
So, so powerful. Thank you so much. And I just want to give a big, heartfelt thank you to all of our experts. For our listeners, you can find information about all of these fabulous experts and all of the other incredible providers that we have on our directory at herhealthcollective.com. Be sure to also check out our other podcast episodes where you will find these fabulous providers, and look at our website. We have articles and videos of content from all of these providers, so you can dive deep on whatever topic is plaguing you at the moment, which as a parent we know is always a lot. So thank you everybody for being with us, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you, everybody. It was great to see you today. Thank you.